Hi, I'm Anna Harris Parker, and I'm from Augusta, Georgia. Grandmother's Allegory. I used to thank God for giving me a second chance. Now I realize Coach was just the second man to give a second look. Some years ago, I received his letter. He remarried, developed diabetes, lost his pitching arm. We were married for 5 years when Coach got restless. He said Georgia red clay didn't take the place of Virginia's mountains, which gave birth to river rocks, smooth, tumbled. They never crossed their lovers' borders, and he wasn't meant to either, which is why he left me, a single undershirt on the line. Thank you.
Moving that up. My name is Tina Parker. I grew up in Bristol, Virginia. I now live in Berea, Kentucky. Patient number 2075, settling in. She looks like anybody's grandmother. White hair bobbed and held back to one side with a bobby pin. Her prim ivory dress with lace collar repurposed from her stillborn baby's bonnet. Evenings, the patients flock to her room. They bring broken toys, doll heads dangling. They seek her advice. They want her to fix it. On women, their bodies. One uterus fussed. Another complained. I shushed them with cotton tampons saturated in glycerin. One uterus sang a right pretty tune. Another bickered with her tubes. One clamped down on my fingers. Another sputtered blood in my face. I cured them all with a daily salt douche. One tilted and tried to hide. Another shed its skin each time I went in. Some had long been empty. Most were full of jewels, full of pins. One held the watch and chain I lost back in 1910.
I am not that tall. Hi, I'm Natalie Seipold, and I live in Masontown, West Virginia. Ticks. Would anybody miss you? The man hollered out his truck window. The white pickup was sitting by the little bridge, idling, probably waiting for one of the beasts hauling equipment to the well site. Hazel walked Hester and Dim, her aging basset hounds, this way nearly every day. There had always been little traffic on the unlined road, but since they'd started drilling the natural gas well, there'd been more and more strange trucks. Some with beds so long they couldn't easily make it around the turns. So they had made new dirt roads to cut the turn short. It was ugly, and no one cared about doing it in a way that wouldn't leave such permanent scars. At first, Hazel wasn't sure what she'd heard. By reflex, she turned her head and looked at him. She was just beyond the truck window and on the other side of the road, but she could clearly see his face, skinny and stubbled, sunglasses that reflected the light. He looked like nobody. Well, he said again, not quite as loud since he'd gotten her attention. He was staring a hole in her, and she felt naked in her gym shorts and t-shirt. Would they? There was another man in the truck too, and she could see him laughing and shaking his head. She'd never felt unsure walking alone. She'd never felt like a vulnerable single woman, though maybe she should have. Most of these oil and gas guys had come in from Texas or Oklahoma. They weren't the boys she'd known all her life. These men were different and new, and they weren't from here. They came and went. No one knew their names. She'd heard the men laughing, and the first one turned and said something to the other, loud enough that she was also supposed to hear, but over the deep bark of her hounds, she only heard pieces. She wanted to go back to her little house with the creek whispering out back, the cozy dark rooms, everything that was hers. She wanted to lock the doors, put the dogs on the bed, and curl up until Sam came. It was Monday night, so he'd be there around 6, bumping his pickup truck into her driveway. He'd stay with her for an hour, maybe 2, before heading back to his place in Crystal Holler. The road had a bend, and once she was around it, Hazel knew that the men in the truck couldn't see her anymore. She was then able to get off the road and into the thick roadside brush. She went back into the trees just enough that she thought she might not be seen. She didn't know how long she'd been sitting there before she heard the deep, low rumble of a truck approaching. At first, she was afraid that it was the men, but then realized the noise was too deep and too big. Not the men, but one of the giant tractor-trailer trucks bumping and squeaking up the road. The trucks had been going by the house for about a month, hauling giant dozers and beams and other evil-looking equipment. It was all mysterious and foreign, too big to make sense of. The trucks took up nearly the entire road, and if a car were to meet them, the car would have to go up into somebody's yard or back up slowly until they got to a wide spot or a driveway to dart into. Just 2 weeks before, a sophomore at the high school had been killed when one of the trucks crossed over the center line out on the main road and easily crushed her little Ford Focus. The lumbering giant came into view. The cab was white with Commodore Oil and Gas LLC on the side, and the trailer was so long that it seemed it would never pass. It was hauling one of those wide metal boxes, like a trailer, that they probably used for some sort of storage. She'd known even before she saw the truck that it was full, because when they weren't hauling a load, they flew. They'd ran over the neighbor's dog, and then someone else's chickens, liked to peck out in the middle of the road. No one let their kids ride bikes anymore. Most people kept them in the house, afraid of what might happen if they turned their heads for just a minute and the kid got too close when one of those trucks came barreling through. These were the things they now knew. This is how their lives had changed. When Sam came, Hazel was sitting on the top porch step, a glass of iced tea sweating next to her. Both dogs trotted to the gate when they heard his truck stop and waited for him to come in and rub their bellies. "Hey," he said, and she raised her chin in greeting. He looked tired, his jeans and work shirt dirty, his skin brown from sun. He dropped down on the step next to her, the dogs pushing around him. "Hey," he said again and reached for her, his rough hand along her jaw, into her hair, pulling her face towards him for a kiss. His lips were dry and hot. She felt a sob rising up in her throat. "You okay?" Sam asked, that worry wrinkle forming between his eyes. "I'm okay," Hazel said. Sam's hand was still in her hair, holding on to the back of her neck. "You okay? Are you mad about something?" "Just a long day," she said. His fingers were in her hair, massaging her scalp, and she willed it to feel nice, like love. Sam leaned forward again to kiss her, then stopped, that worry crease forming. "What?" she asked. "I feel something here," he said. His fingers had stopped moving in her hair and seemed to be holding fast to one spot. "Let me look." Hazel turned so that the back of her head was toward Sam. She could feel him parting her hair, moving it around and searching for the things his fingers had felt. "There it is," he said. "Hold still. You got a tick in there." Hazel felt the panic rising in her chest. She wanted to scream, to tell Sam to both get it out and not to touch it. It must have fallen into her hair earlier when she was hiding in the woods. "Oh God," she managed. She thought she could feel it now, that nasty little bastard under her skin, inside her, eating her blood for its dinner. "He ain't in there too far. I think I can get him with my fingers." She felt the edges of Sam's fingernails against her scalp. Then he gave a hard yank. "Ouch," she screamed and finally pulled herself away. She jumped up and turned to see Sam holding the tiny, tiny little tick between his index finger and thumb. He'd taken a few strands of her hair with the tick, and Hazel could see those dangling around his hand. "I think I got him all," he said, staring closely at the black dot. "You shouldn't have done that. You're never supposed to do that," Hazel screamed and hit him on the arm. Sam looked at her, confused, and then squashed the tick against the porch banister with his thumb, smearing a little just to make sure it was dead. There was just a tiny bit of blood, but it was bright red against the white paint. "I'm sorry this turned out to be a bust," Hazel said, standing again on the edge of the porch an hour or so later, telling Sam goodbye. "I wasted it." "Bullshit," Sam said. "I wanted to see you, and I saw you. Hell, I even got to de-tick you." The dog started barking and barreled off the porch towards the gate, just as the big truck, now empty, came thumping up the road. After it came the white truck. Sam and Hazel both watched it come, and when it got in front of the house, it nearly stopped. The man in the passenger seat, wearing mirrored sunglasses, had his arm out the window and raised his hand to speak. Sam raised his too, but his eyes were narrowed, and he watched the men as they watched Hazel's house. When they got beyond Sam's truck, they accelerated, and soon all that was left was the dust from their tires. "Damn shame," Sam said. Hazel's head still tingled where the tick had been, and she put her finger there. There was a little bump, which would probably turn into a scab. "They'll be gone pretty soon," Hazel said, "and all that will be left is the mess." Thank you. There you go.
I'm Anna Egan Smucker from Bridgeport, West Virginia. Cercius canadensis, redbud. Arboretum specimen frozen in this 100-day-old snow. We are too far north, you and I. Your arms have stretched dangerously thin, groping toward a sun that will not warm. I want to cover you with my coat, console you in your solitude. They have made of you a subject, planted wrong in shade too deep beside a creek called a river in this land of no hills. We must find a way home. When the wind from the south blows moist and sweet, when your buds are swollen and tender, at night I will come for you. I will spade your ground, gently pull you forth, swaddle your roots in warm, wet cloth. We will leave in darkness the North Star at our backs and trace the scent of spring to its source. There I will plant you on a hill of white dogwood and of redbud already blooming, and every shade of green growing. And our roots will reach down into the rich black veins running deep into this earth. Consider the lilies, and the epigraph to this is, find something that speaks to you, listen to it, learn from it. Bonnie Thurston. Past the midpoint of Lent, good intentions fallen onto rocky ground, my breath clouds the ice-cold window. I want the fecundity of warm earth, these clenched hands pry open, light to pierce this darkness. Outside, wind whips the tall grass. The red pine's branches lift and sway. On its plated bark, sap has hardened into transparent beads. Last summer's leaves, dry and curled, rattle on the lower branches of an oak. I pick up what remains of an acorn, cap, cup, full. Inside a perfect circle of brown, an eye without sight. It's seed, the absence, that speaks. Perhaps by now it has left transformed into muscle, bone, the blood of a liquid-eyed deer. Or maybe it lies hidden a yard away, where by instinct or luck, a squirrel will unearth it after a snowfall yet to come. Or it will not be found, but will lie dormant, forgotten, until the day it bursts forth, insistent, green, and holy. Okay, now switching gears rather drastically. Here is Buck Moon, Thunder Moon. Before mothers handed us stapled stacks of Dear Abby columns about sex, before zit cream, Kotex, and bras, before garter belts, nylons, and heels, delirious with anticipation, we plunged into scout camp at Torch Lake. Kayaking, canoeing, stretching bowstrings taut, relays, three-legged races, and snake-bite first aid. Coyotes yipped in the star-streaked nights as we raced down the woods trail, down to the clearing and its glowing fire heart. 4 tribes of pubescent girls, we pounded out the rhythm. Awooni cooney cha awooni, awooni cooney cha awooni. Sweaty hands beating thighs, blood sister packs made and sealed. We sat cross-legged in a circle, our chant fast, faster. The campfire sparks scorching the leaves overhead. Awooni cooney cha awooni. We swayed like an undulating snake. At school, Curtis showed me his weenie. I'd had nothing to show him, not yet. Awooni cooney cha awooni, awooni cooney cha awooni. By week's end, sleep deprived, we had become creatures not ourselves. Had there been no adult sentry, we girls would have stripped, pretended we were colts bucking, kicking up our shiny hooves, devouring the long green grass, using muscles we didn't know we had.
I am Sherelle Weigel. I grew up in a holler in central West Virginia and have lived in Parkersburg, West Virginia for over 30 years. Let's not go into details. The crucifix of August. We are deep in the humid days of summer where a scrap of shade is as rare as the Holy Grail. Our dogs and cats curl beneath porches on bare, dark earth, and even the grasses curl in upon themselves. Each morning hungers for a hint of wind. Afternoons hold us so close no one speaks, afraid their words might hang for days around their mouths. Night offers only darkness, no relief. Like a 2 millennium old prayer we can't forget, Like a 2 millennium old pledge we can't forget, we offer prayers for redemption, salvation, some new breath to quench the ache for respite, while still we're held in the long and languid heat. It could have been a Wednesday. Memories we carry in back pockets like old wallets, worn yet familiar. Remembrances call us as our mothers did on summer evenings. The screams of past events we swallow daily and cannot digest. Sometimes we share so you may know exactly who we are. The winter of '69 is one brief pain that shot across my back so sharp. It could have been a Wednesday or a Tuesday. I don't know the date, but I know it drove me down where I lay long, afraid to move. I did not call my sister nor my aunt one floor below, but stayed and said myself till evening forced me into the wife and mother role. What I do know is 2 months later, a new doctor in a new town said, "Fetus dead," yet sent me home with scarlet pills. And in a thundercloud of pills, I took that, in a thunderhead of clouds, I took those pills till I, myself, ran red with death. Sistering grief. Spring yellow coldfoot blossoms greet us as we run the fence line, twist and patch gaping spaces, then hike to water the penned-in pig rescued from time amid horses and deer, a life of rooting the wild. We drive the fields, count white-faced cattle, look up for circling buzzards, check udders and spindly legs. In muddy boots, we slosh from pasture to pasture, pond to pond, puddle to puddle, our minds thick with death. What can be more important today than counting cows and calves? It is expected of us to go on with these daily chores, to wake as if we were the same as yesterday, as if your husband's death has not seared us raw. So we rescue and name other creatures, move out from empty rooms where loud memories of the long married haunt our days. Grief hangs around our nights and morning, chokes us at meal times, leaves us empty as the stomachs of newborn animals. Thank you.
My name is Odana. I've been living in Culloden, West Virginia for 27 years off and on. Green is a natural color. It's warm for February, but the water is still cold like it should be. I'm wearing short sleeves and ink on my fingers. There was another chemical spill on Thursday, and they called some men at the Capitol about it on Saturday. The newspapers told us Sunday night while we were sleeping. The water bubbles up over my naked toes, and I think of all the tiny bones that I've broken. I shuffle further out into the creek and yearn for the years when you could drink this water, for I know that tonight in the shower, the clean water will burn the places where this stream has touched. I pretend for now that it will not. I pretend for now that this place does not care about me. I pretend for now that these 3 crosses perched on every other hilltop lead me home. Instead, they lead me around in circles, always back to a highway marker in that awful green color that is supposed to blend with the nature around us. Perhaps someday when coal is king again and the trees are artificial like Christmas, they will be. I call my mom when I get home and I tell her not to drink the water again. Yeah, Mama, again.
Well, I feel like I'm swaying on my feet. This has just been amazing. If you're counting, I make number 24. I have 3 pieces, but I'm actually just going to do a couple because I know we're all tired. I do want to mention many of us have chapbooks for sale. The second table over, so if you're interested in buying our work, that helps us out. If you enjoyed someone, please support them if you're able with your dollars. We also have our own chapbook that's for sale, as I mentioned earlier. This first piece is called Daughter-in-Law Mine, Once Removed. There is a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border made of surplus steel and wire mesh, 1,000 miles worth. backyards and alleyways in Chula Vista as far up as Temecula. Children stand on our side, poke tiny fingers into those hardly even holes for the slightest brush of their grandmother's fingers pressed inward through the Tijuana side. I read about it in Time magazine and cried. The iciness of your Colorado standoff, rigid as anything man-made. Surely you remember this rich Ohio soil, ripe to bursting, pastures plush. A woman can make her way here. I don't care about the details, who was right, who should have got what but didn't. I don't care that you'll never love again and hell's to pay. I care that my body has gone to wrinkle and the world to concrete and convenience. Tractors traded for fracking augers. Though this parcel will never fall long as I can steady a shotgun. With nothing but a wall to cling to, what's balled up can only bounce back. Without old ways, a granddaughter might never make out why her body aches for seed and trowel. It came to me rifling National Geo to send this telescope, highly recommended for its ability to reflect, along with the moon and stars, help her please to look south of Lake Erie by way of the Appalachians, then east by southeast. Tell her that's her grandmother, top a big snob, waving a white hanky. And this should continue in the vein of sharing work that's pertinent to what's happening today. This one's called My Friend Lorraine Asked Will I Go with her to a drag show. Lorraine, heart of a star, rainwater rusted, walks with jumpy steps and strange rhythms from the mountains. She once made a cutout of a cloud, and that cloud's sister sent to me as a postcard. I pray most nights standing, worry about the wind when it presses hard from the south, walk under lightning to gather up chickens. That night the bourbon tasted like Kool-Aid. We drank 5 each. Together, a twisted mirror of becoming our better selves. During the finale, we hiked up our skirts and danced like dervishes. A rainbow of zinnias swayed the sidewalk, moonlit, as Loretta and I teetered homeward, holding fast to one another, spouting newfound revelations of womanness. Noting that serious dancing just might be the cure to years of heavy lifting. She reminds me how a seed case splits, exposes backbone, but also vulnerability. Shit fire, Lorraine says. We should all throw ourselves like seed. Thank you so much for having us today, everyone. This was marvelous, wonderful. You are fabulous. We'll be sticking around. If you want to talk to any of us, please. We would love that. And I don't know if there are still goodies left, but let's eat them up before we go. Thank you.